Hello, my name is Gary, and I was raised in the Western United States, so I'm a native English speaker. I hope that you will enjoy this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.
The Tale of the Flopsy Bunnies by Beatrix Potter, 1866 to 1943. It is said that eating too much lettuce has a soporific effect. I've never felt sleepy after eating lettuce, but I'm not a rabbit. It definitely had a strong soporific effect on the Flopsy Bunnies. When Benjamin Bunny grew up, he married his cousin Flopsy. They had a big family and always cheerful, despite not being very good at saving. I don't recall all their children's names. They were usually just called the Flopsy Bunnies. Since there wasn't always enough to eat, Benjamin would borrow cabbages from Flopsy's brother, Peter Rabbit, who had a nursery garden. Sometimes Peter Rabbit didn't have any cabbages to spare. When this happened, the Flopsy Bunnies would head across the field to rubbish heap in the ditch outside Mr. McGregor's garden. Mr. McGregor's rubbish heap was quite the mix. There were jam jars, paper bags, piles of grass clippings from the mower, which always tasted a bit oily, some rotting marrows, and even an old boot or two. One day, what luck! There was a bunch of overgrown lettuces that had gone to seed. The Flopsy Bunnies just stuffed themselves with lettuce. Gradually, one by one, they drifted off to sleep and lay down in the cut grass. Benjamin wasn't as drowsy as his children. Before falling asleep, he was awake enough to put a paper bag over his head to keep the flies away. The little Flopsy Bunnies slept peacefully in the warm sun. From the lawn beyond the garden came the distant clatter of the mower. Bluebottle flies buzzed around the wall, and a tiny old mouse was rummaging through the rubbish near the jam jars. Her name was Thomasina Tittlemouse, a wood mouse with a long tail. She scurried across the paper bag, waking up Benjamin Bunny. The mouse quickly apologised and mentioned that she knew Peter Rabbit. While she and Benjamin were chatting near the wall, they suddenly heard heavy footsteps above them. Out of nowhere, Mr. McGregor dumped a sack full of grass clippings right on top of the sleeping Flopsy Bunnies. Benjamin ducked under his paper bag, and the mouse hid inside a jam jar. The little rabbits smiled peacefully in their sleep under the pile of grass. They didn't wake up because the lettuce had made them so sleepy. They dreamed that their mother, Flopsy, was tucking them into a bed of hay. After emptying his sack, Mr. McGregor glanced down and saw some funny little brown ears poking through the grass. He stared at them for a while. Soon a fly landed on one of them and it twitched. Mr. McGregor climbed down into the pile of rubbish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, he said as he dropped them into his sack. The Flopsy Bunnies dreamed their mother was tucking them in and turning them over in bed. They stirred slightly in their sleep but still didn't wake up. Mr. McGregor tied up the sack and left it on the wall. Then he went off to put away the mower. While he was away, Mrs. Flopsy Bunny, who had stayed home, came across the field. She eyed the sack suspiciously and wondered where everyone had gone. The mouse came out of her jam jar, and Benjamin took the paper bag off his head. Together they shared the sad story. Benjamin and Flopsy were in a panic. They couldn't untie the string, but Mrs. Tittlemouse was clever. She gnawed a hole in the bottom corner of the sack. The little rabbits were pulled out and gently pinched to wake them up. Their parents filled the empty sack with 3 rotten squash, an old shoe brush, and 2 decayed turnips. Then they all hid under a bush and waited for Mr. McGregor. Mr. McGregor returned, picked up the sack, and carried it away. He held it low as if it was quite heavy. The Flopsy Bunnies followed from a safe distance. They watched him go inside his house. Then they quietly crept up to the window to listen. Mr. McGregor tossed the sack onto the stone floor in a way that would have been very painful for the Flopsy bunnies if they had actually been inside. They could hear him dragging his chair across the floor and chuckling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, said Mr. McGregor. Eh? What's that? What have they ruined this time? Asked Mrs. McGregor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little fat rabbits, repeated Mr. McGregor, counting on his fingers. 1, 2, 3. Don't be ridiculous. What are you talking about, you silly old man? In the sack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, replied Mr. McGregor. The youngest Flopsy bunny climbed up onto the windowsill. Mrs. McGregor grabbed the sack and felt it. She said she could feel 6, but they must be old rabbits because they were so hard and oddly shaped. No good for eating, but their skins will be perfect to line my old cloak. Line your old cloak, shouted Mr. McGregor. I'll sell them. Mrs. McGregor untied the sack and reached inside. When she felt the vegetables, she became furious. She accused Mr. McGregor of doing it on purpose. Mr. McGregor was furious too. One of the rotten marrows went flying through the kitchen window and hit the youngest Flopsy bunny. It was a bit hurt. At that point, Benjamin and Flopsy decided it was time to head home. The following Christmas, Thomas Tittlemouse received a gift of enough rabbit wool to make herself a cloak, a hood, a stylish muff, and a pair of warm mittens.